Hello and welcome to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, episode number 30. We're focusing on horse racing today. We're focusing on NFL a little bit later on. Both videos will be up pretty much at exactly the same time. But my name's Luke Elder, and as always, next to me is Tom Collins. We did not, Tom, coordinate ourselves today. Just so happens that we wear a lovely colour of red.
Yeah, well, I was looking through and trawling back through all of our previous 28, 29 videos and trying to find a shirt that I hadn't worn so far. It was like a bit of a mystery in my wardrobe. And this was the only one I come out with. And seemingly you've done exactly the same. And we have got a burgundy memo. Hopefully that will be a good luck charm.
Yeah, you know what they say? Burgundy is a lucky colour. I have heard them say that. Again, apologies for my voice. I think it's getting a bit better.
You sound a little bit like Kermit, but apart from that, it's all good.
I don't get that. I think I sound a bit mysterious.
Oh, I thought you were going to say sexy then. I was going to say Jesus. Here we go.
No. But if that let's talk about horse racing. What happened last week? We were talking about the Kentucky Turf Cup. Well done if you found Grand Sonata, because that was not easy to find, and you got a 20-1 winner because of it.
Yeah, it was a very tricky race, tricky result. We went for a couple of long shots. Anglophile actually ran reasonably well for me in 5th or 6th. Looked like he was coming to win at one stage, but just couldn't really go through with his effort. It was a day where they moved the rails down. So the rails were at 0 rather than being at 15 feet. There was a big strip of fresh ground against the inside. And to be honest, we didn't really see it used to great effect throughout the whole card. But in the Kentucky Turf Cup, we did. Grand Sonata scooted up the rail on that piece of fresh ground and managed to win. I couldn't have had him on form, to be honest. He rode a bias last time at Monmouth and won as well. So I think moving forward, you have to take the last two pieces of form of Grand Sonata with a pinch of salt. Nevertheless, if you backed him last Saturday, then very well done.
Yeah, absolutely. I went for Get Smoking. He went too hard with Balladeer, just sort of playing the stalk and roll, and he had nothing left to give late on, but he'll be back in the near future, no doubt. And we had a disappointment, obviously, from the Aidan O'Brien team in the fact that Chief Little Rock didn't even get to run. But we move on to Woodbine, where we've got European interest once again. We've got Naval Power. Big Rock has turned up as well, which we didn't quite expect, but he turned up the other day over in Canada. From a pace perspective, it's a tricky one. We've got 3 Mark Casse runners in here. Maybe one of them could try and go forward and make the running. Obviously, Big Rock is well averse to doing that, and Umberto Rispoli has been flown in quite literally to ride.
Yeah, I really like the jockey booking, to be fair. Umberto's a fantastic rider, especially on turf. So I love the fact that he's been flown in to ride Big Rock. To be honest, I think Big Rock could make the lead in here. We know he's got loads of early speed. He's shown that Ascot on Champions Day last year, for example, when he won. And he has subsequently, in his last 3 efforts, looked to be towards the front. He has that natural pace and good gate speed for a European horse. So it wouldn't surprise me if he managed to get on the front end. Filo di Ariana is the obvious one in here, stretching up in distance. I know he ran over a mile last time when he was successful, but he's generally a sprinter, as proven by the fact he actually finished second behind Cockburn earlier in the year, over 5.5. So I think Filo di Ariana will be the one to go forward for Mark Casse, but I think Big Rock will be up there as well. If you're looking at the other pace horses in the race potentially, Play Me a Tune Inside and My Boy Prince have early speed, but they're more stalkers with tactical pace rather than out-and-out front runners. So yeah, I think Big Rock and Filo di Ariana will set the pace.
Yeah, I'm not against that at all. I think Big Rock will probably be the one who wins the battle for the early lead, but Naval Power will want pretty much nothing to do with that. And speaking of jockeys flying in, it's been a little while, Tom, but William Buick is heading over to, I would say the US, but to Canada to take the ride on Naval Power.
Yeah, this has been a very happy hunting ground for William Buick. Whenever he goes over to Ontario, he seems to win. So, yeah, it's a positive sign that he's going over there. Obviously, he could have come and ridden at Doncaster if he wanted to. There's good racing over in Ireland as well. So we would have had a choice, despite Godolphin not having the best of domestic strings right now. But he's decided to go to Woodbine. Obviously, this is a huge prize, $1 million Canadian on the line, and he looks to have a good chance with Naval Power.
Absolutely. Just seen Sheen Murphy's over in Woodbine as well. He's got a ride on New Century in the race prior, the Summer Stakes, and William Buick's also on Alcudra there as well. So William Buick will have a few chances. The Woodbine Mile is one of them. Look, so far Naval Power I don't want to say it's been disappointing, but hasn't managed to win. He's been second on sort of back-to-back starts. More will be needed here, but I still think on recent efforts he does set a standard.
Yeah, absolutely. This horse is generally forgotten about, I think. You think about all of Charlie Appleby's good mile horses or good middle distance horses, and Naval Power never really comes into consideration. Yet he is 6 from 9 in his career. He's been relatively prolific. He was a good 2-year-old. Unfortunately, that season ended with his only real dire effort, and that came in the Dewhurst when sixth. Subsequently, he went over to Meydan, and he was very good as a 3-year-old in his one start. And he's come back this year, and I don't think he's done much wrong, to be honest. First up, he was very impressive after a long layoff, and his 2 subsequent outings in the US, I thought he's run very well. Finished second behind Master of the Seas, arguably the best turf miler based in the US right now. Obviously with Charlie Appleby, but he is situated over there. And then last time, I thought he ran perfectly well. He just got done in a very close finish. I definitely think he sets a standard, and he's still unexposed. Only had the 9 outings. We could see a big step forward here. It wouldn't be surprising at all.
Yeah, he's ran 2 good speed figures as well. His Bayer figures have been 104, 102 over in the US so far. A repeat of that will make him very tough to beat. Now, we have got a market for this race as we're speaking, so we'll look at the market and what it is because we haven't actually got a morning line yet. But Naval Power is 6-4. Filo di Ariana is 130. Big Rock at 9-2. 6-1 for My Boy Prince. 8-1 win for the money. 16-1 and bigger the remainder. The second in the market is Filo di Ariana. Big surprise for me in that one. I don't think Filo di Ariana will go off second favourite. Is a horse that I liked and I backed and tipped 2 starts ago when winning over 6.5. I'm just not sure at this sort of level a mile is really what Filo di Ariana wants.
No, exactly that. He was successful over the trip last time in the King Edward, but that was a much weaker race than this, and he managed to get a freebie up front. He's basically a sprinter that can stretch out, not a proper miler, which he's going to face here. When we do this horse racing podcast every week, I always come down with 3 contenders that we talk about, and I try to do it based on the market / interesting horses if they're European shippers. And this week, Filo di Ariana didn't feature in my 3, so I didn't think he'd be second favourite. I think he's probably a little bit too short in the market right now. He's a very consistent horse. He's won 9 times from 17. He obviously represents Mark Casse, the best trainer up in Canada. But I don't know. I think this is a tough task for him, and his price is way too short.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm not as outraged by the price as Chief Little Rock last week, but it's still the wrong price. I think Big Rock should at least be second in the market. Big Rock currently 9-2. Honestly, I had heard nothing about him going over for the Woodbine Mile. I did say last year that I wouldn't have minded to see him in the Breeders' Cup Mile, but it's a tale of 2 halves with him because last year, brilliant, switched yards, and he's been very, very poor this year.
Yeah, really bad. To be honest, it's just impossible to know what to expect from him. My conclusion is that I just don't trust him, but we know that he's quite clearly got the ability to win a race like this. He was excellent and a very consistent horse as a 3-year-old. A season which he capped off by winning the QE2 at Champion State Royal Ascot Ascot in October. And he won in the style of a horse who was really going to dominate the mile division in Europe this season. Subsequently moved away from Christopher Head, as you've talked about, moving to Maurizio Guarnieri's yard. And his 3 runs this year have just been atrocious. He would literally need 4 new legs to win the QE2 again this year. He's been a different horse. I don't know what to expect from him. This may not be the ideal target, considering they've said in the past that he wants soft ground and he's going to be firm at Woodbine. They've had a pretty dry week and the forecast looks good ahead of Saturday. So maybe the conditions aren't right for him, but I do love the pace scenario and he's quite clearly got the talent if he comes back to his 3-year-old form.
If he does, he's the best horse in this race by quite some way. I mean, his effort in the QE2 was absolutely phenomenal. Probably performance of the year, maybe in Europe full stop, because it was sort of hairs on end sort of stuff. When did he land in Toronto? When did he get there?
I sent you a picture of him in a stable in Canada. I think it was Tuesday. So I think he's been there at least since Monday. That was what the report was. But I don't know if he was there before. That was the first time I knew that Big Rock was even going over.
He must have been there before, because that's a very quick turnaround. I'm not being a idiot with this or just trying to kick up a fuss. But the stable switch must go down as one of the worst stable switches in history. And it's not just Big Rock that did it. The move from Christopher Head to Maurizio Garnieri. A horse over in Europe called Blue Rose Sen did it. Now, Blue Rose Sen was one of the better fillies last year. She was very, very good. She's been woeful this year. I know she ran well the other day, but it was a bunch finish and they tried cheap pieces and whatnot, but Big Rock has completely lost his way.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Maurizio, to be honest. And I agree with you that we're not doing this as like to stir up any kind of drama towards the trainer. But what we've seen so far from those two main horses from the Christopher Head stable that have moved, they have been awful. And you cannot just say the horses have suddenly lost their form because they've lost their talent. That's not plausible. So, yeah, look, Maurizio needs a big winner. And this could prove to be the one.
Well, that's my point. He's not training them at the moment. The horse is over in Woodbine. If Big Rock has got back 75% of his ability and he's just happier, that's probably good enough for me to go very close in this race. So it is interesting regarding Big Rock in the Woodbine Mile. He's a fascinating runner who, like I say, I didn't expect to turn up in this spot, but you've got My Boy Prince in here as well, another Mark Casse runner. He's got 3 to throw into the mix, but My Boy Prince shouldn't be good enough to win this, really.
No, he was Canada's champion 2-year-old colt last year. He ran very well at the Breeders' Cup, finishing 3rd. He just looked like a 2-year-old that was pretty above average compared to the other US group, but that US group wasn't the most talented. Subsequently, this year, he's come out and notched a couple of very impressive victories before being a little bit lackluster in the plate trial. And then in the plate itself, he got beat by a filly called Caitlin Her Greatness. Now, if you put Caitlin Her Greatness against the likes of Naval Power and a proper Big Rock, then she would have very little chance of winning. So I would agree that My Boy Prince has to take a big step forward. He's switching back to turf as well, which is a little bit of a question mark, though we know he can handle it. And he's drawn widest of all. There's just enough going against him to actually support him this week.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think this is a bit too deep for him. And even at the Breeders' Cup, when he ran really well behind Unquestionable, a horse that I loved for that day, wasn't a great renewal of the juvenile turf. So we've gone through the 4 main ones. Picks wise, or is there anything else that you want to mention?
No more. I don't think any of the outsiders in this race really has a live shot, though I could have said that last week about Grand Sonata. I think it's to do with those 4 horses that we've discussed. And do you want me to go first with picks, or do you want to? I mean, you basically spoiled who you're selecting, so you might as well go.
Did I?
Yeah, I'd say so.
My selection's Big Rock. I just think it's fascinating they've taken him to Canada. If Maurizio Garnieri is just not a very good trainer, which at the moment the signs are pointing towards that, he might just be able to re-find a little bit of form over in Canada. But I think Big Rock is more than up to winning this race. You look at Ascot last year, he was absolutely fantastic. This year, it's not worked for him, whether it's because he's just not in that sort of form, he's a quirky horse or whatever, or whether it literally is the stable switch. I'm happy to take 9-2 to find that out. If he is back to his best, he is without doubt the best horse in this race. It would be the equivalent of over in the US running to a Bayer speed figure of between 115 and 120 each and every time. Just automatic turn up, you do that. And then this year he's been running to high 90s, mid 90s. It's that much of a drop off. If he can return to that sort of form, just because he's somewhere different and likely being trained differently by someone else, Big Rock has got a chance. I'm happy, Tom, taking that shot around 9-2, but you're not. Who are you with?
Yeah, I'm not happy with it. I wouldn't be surprised if Big Rock won, and actually I'd quite like to see him return to form. But yeah, I just don't trust him. And albeit the price is relatively fair, considering we know that he's most talented in the race, I just can't really bring myself to select him. So I'm glad you have, because that should provide at least one of us having the winner of this race, because I like the favourite. And that is Naval Power. Charlie Appleby has controlled this event for the last 2 years, winning it both times. He looks for the hat-trick here, and he's just got a great chance with this horse, ridden by William Buick. I loved that run behind Master of the Seas. I thought that was extremely promising, first up in the US. And then last time when he got beaten by Program Trading, he was a very good horse for Klarovich and Chad Brown. I thought he ran great off the front end. He showed tactical speed that day, which he doesn't necessarily need to show on Saturday because there is a fair amount of pace in the race. And also he proved that he's up there with the top quality horses of this division. You know, he beat the likes of Webslinger, who's a horse that we both love. So I think if Naval Power can reproduce either of his last 2 runs, and he'll be very tough to beat. And just before filming this podcast, you asked me what price I thought he would be. I said 5-4, and he's currently 6-4. So, in my opinion, that represents a little bit of value as well.
Just saying, we are in Web Sling's colours today.
We are. It's because we love him so much.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Great horse. Love him. They are the picks. Big Rock for me, Naval Power for Tom in the Woodbine Mile. We'll see what happens after the Woodbine Mile, whether we find ourselves a Breeders' Cup candidate. But that is our horse racing preview done for the week. We do have a couple of NFL previews on our YouTube page at the moment. Depending on when you are watching this, we've got a Thursday night football preview for the NFL and also a Sunday preview, which obviously will be after the Woodbine Mile is done. But if you did enjoy this video, thank you to everyone who subscribed last week, left a comment and left some feedback. That was most appreciated. If you haven't subscribed, then you still can subscribe. You'll be kept up to date with every single thing that we do on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Then, Tom, shall we go and record another one?
Yeah, let's go record that NFL pod. Everyone, please go tune into that. Last week we had a fair few winners across the board. So if you do like playing, betting, wagering, and you love American football or different kind of sports, then definitely go check that one out.
Yeah, and if you don't like American football, but you've never given it a go, come and give it a go. We'll see if we can get you involved in it. It's a very, very interesting sport. And it's not boring. Whatever people tell you, it's not boring. But that's racing done on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. That was Turf. We're going to go do touchdowns now until we next speak to you. Stay safe. Look after each other. Goodbye.